Hello again and welcome. Michael Pizzolla here. I'd like to welcome you to this edition of the Value Capping Rant. This is the 2019 Belmont Stakes edition. And for those of you who have been watching these Triple Crown rants and the other rants, I want to first of all thank you so much for watching them. I've gotten some requests, and they usually go along these lines. Hey, Michael, you show us these pretty slides, and you show us what your software tool, in my case it's Value Capper, what it does with the race. But there's something missing, and that is how you come to the conclusions that you come to. And so what I thought I'd do with this video is to give you more of an over-the-shoulder look about how I actually go about using the software. Now, it's going to be a little messier, if you will, than all those, nice, neat slides with the arrows and all. But bear with me because I think this will be useful. So, for those of you who don't know who I am or what I do, my name is Michael Pizzolla. I am the author of the best-selling handicapping book, Handicapping Magic, co-author of the classic Pace Makes the Race. I'm the creator of the original online racing forum, which is now known as Post Time Daily 2.0. It's a fully customizable forum, looks really great. There are consensus selections in there, all kinds of good things. You can find out about that at posttimedaily.com. I am also the creator of the Black Magic family of software. The latest iteration is called Value Capper. I've done a free course, the Value Capping Revolution Basic Training course, which you can get for free at ValueCapper.com. It covers the value capping framework, why value capping is different than handicapping. I explain the 5x5 formula. And the very last video talks about the specifics of the software, how you can get the software and the training. But listen, I'm about at my limit about how many people I can coach and support through the Wizards Forum and so forth. And on the value capping comprehensive training course, there are over 200 videos on the thing. And it's this course, this free course that I'm talking about here, that you can get at ValueCapper.com. The reason I'm so enthusiastic about it is especially the first two videos talks about a new approach to the game. The game has changed so much. The public has gotten so much better by and large. Are they right all the time? Of course not. Do they make mistakes? All the time. But by and large, because of the proliferation of good enough data out there, I mean, anyone can, with an internet connection, could get decent numbers. Back when I first started this, you had to make those numbers yourself. Okay? But the value capping framework is geared to the modern game of finding horses that you like, that the public shouldn't. Preferably, you like them running against vulnerable favorites. You must wait for your price. There's no such thing as a lock. I bet this horse at 1-9. No. And finally, you need to do enough practice that there is a felt sense, and it almost feels automatic. It's like you just let the bet make you, is the way I put it in shorthand. Let me point out a few important things about this video. First, this is not a touting video. If it were, I would just say, well, gee, I like this horse in the Belmont, and take a look at this horse here and this one. No, rather, I want to demonstrate the principles of value capping, how this applies. And, of course, I do it on the big races because there's a lot of interest in the big races. But, frankly, a lot of the big races are not very playable. They're very passable, okay? Those principles that I want to demonstrate. And I'll show you some horses that I like that the public shouldn't. I'll show you some races in the undercards where they're running against vulnerable favorites. I can't make you wait for your price. I know I will. And, yes, if you say, hey, I need to get 10-1 on this horse, and he goes off at at 6-1 and he wins, and you think, oh boy, I should have bet it. Well, that's part of the game, and that's part of letting the bet make you. The other thing is I'm making this days before the Belmont Stakes. It's actually Wednesday of Belmont week. So I don't have the weather. I don't have the late changes. There's one colt specifically that both of its wins were on sloppy tracks. So if Belmont turns up sloppy, it may be a different thing. If one of the pace setters gets scratched, it may change the projection of the race and so forth. And finally, I just want to emphasize this again. Value investment potentials are price dependent. That means no price, no bet. But, and hear this, because I've gotten some emails and some comments, is that, well, aren't you just looking for a price horse and you're not really you're not really handicapping? No, handicapping is built into that. But the emphasis is the handicapping, the taking the race apart. And it's taken me the better part of 3 decades to put all of this together into one tool that makes all of that work easy, so that handicapping is done for you. And look, it's a computer program. It's not as good as the fuzzy logic that our human brains use. On the other hand, who's got an hour and change to work on, one race when you've got, here in Las Vegas, sometimes 180, 200 races on a weekend to look at. I mean, that's just, it's impossible without a tool like software. We take advantage of that. We all have, computers now and so forth. But the handicapping is a given, and it's a vital part of how the value capper odds line is made. But yet the emphasis of value capping is on finding value. And value doesn't mean just price. It means the horse has to have something going for it. It's a horse, after all, that you like. Because otherwise, you just bet the slow horses that are going off at 40 to 1. No, that's not what value capping is. I want to disabuse you of that notion. All right. So I started making some pretty slides. And the way I usually approach especially the big races, but most races, is I like to look at the historical track profile. In other words, how does the track favor horses? What kinds of horses have won this particular race? Now, this is an unusual distance. It's 1.5 miles. Okay? And at Belmont Park, that's once around. It's the biggest circumference racetrack. Okay, so it's once around. They run 1.5 miles at Belmont, or they have been, twice a year in the Belmont Stakes and the Brooklyn Invitational. And here are those races going all the way back to 2012. And what does this tell us? This is a whole bunch of numbers, but what I like to look at is where are the winners coming from at the second call, and how do they expend their energy? Energy of 50 is very late. Below 50 is very, very late. Okay, 52 is early. Okay, so what this is telling me, this profile favors a colt that will be close at the second call. I mean, look at the second call column. 0, 4.1 in the Brooklyn. But so 0 was, of course, when Justify wired the field last year to win the Triple Crown. But you see, it's, 1.5 lengths, 3.5 lengths, 1.5 lengths, 0.5. So it's an unusual combination. Most people who aren't really familiar with incremental velocity will say, well, it's 1.5 mile race. The late horses have to do well. Well, that's not been the case. You have to be positionally early. In other words, close to the lead at the second call, but expend your energy late. And I won't get into a long story of how that percentage energy, it's a factor of what percentage of the second call to the total energy in the race. And that's what that's an expression of. So again, it translates to a colt that can be relatively close at the second call, yet expend its energy late. And then I thought, I was just about to take all the horses apart and all, and I thought about that comment I got. Hey, can you show us how you actually use the software to get to the conclusions of bet, no bet, which horse or colt you'll favor, and so forth? And so I'm going to stop with the slides now. I'm going to take you to, before I do that, I did an interesting thing, and those of you out there who have Value Capper, I don't know if you know about this feature. There's this little checkbox up there that you can say, show me the second place finishers, because, hey, I'm interested in the exactas as well. And interestingly enough, except for one Colt, and that was last year when Gronkowski came from way back to get second at 25-1. The second place horses were relatively close to the pace, and you'll see them in the blue shading there. Okay? And they also expended their energy very late. Okay? So I've got that in mind before I even start looking at the race. And again, so rather than slide after slide, I'm going to take you now to Value Capper, have you look over my shoulder right from my opening of the race to making a choice, making a decision, setting a price that I will take and so forth. And I hope you'll find this helpful. Okay, so come along now, look over my shoulder as I use the tools of Value Capper to make some sense of whether I have a value investment opportunity or not. Here's the Value Capper screen. This is the screen from which I made that slide about the second place finishers and the track profile and so forth. So I've got in my mind that I want a colt that's positionally placed near the pace, but that expends its energy late. Okay? So here's the way the Value Capper screen looks when I first open it. And, there's a lot of subtlety to this. There's a lot in this decision-making process. It's not just, well, he's got Spin-Off, Tacitus, and Intrepid Heart right up there on top. Those must be the picks. And, he's got the 6 and this one in blue, and he's got other horses in red. No. In fact, one of the most important things is this little piggy bank. There's an advisor. Now, this is a sense that those of you who've been playing the horses for a while, okay, you'll know this race just doesn't feel right. I can't find anything in the race. I just don't feel right about it. Okay. So what this attempts to do is take concrete, specific criteria and make a suggestion. The advisor says, hey, consider passing this race. It's in red. Red means stop. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's an arc 7. That means there are 7 horses above random. Above random, there are only 9 horses in the race, colts, okay? 2 of them have inflated odds. In other words, we don't think as much about Tacitus and War of Will as the public does. And that concerns me. And War of Will is also the favorite, and, it's below random. It's way down here on the line. So right away, that gives me pause. I'm not just focused on, hey, I got to find a horse, and I'll find a horse that has that energy and that position. No, okay? All of that is taken into account. So I know I've got to be cautious about this race, and I'm going to deal specifically with War of Will in a moment. So we know what the track wants. How does this race project when we put the position of the horses along with the velocity that it has? And this is what I call acupressure, okay? Acupressure shows that Spin-Off and Joey Villa are going to probably, okay, because we can't read the jockeys' minds, probably be going for the lead. Okay, it shows Spin-Off may have an advantage based on its velocity. And they're both there at the second call with Intrepid Heart and maybe Tax, so Tax is way back there. And then we have a bunch of closers. Tax, Tacitus, Sir Winston, Everfast, Bourbon War. Interesting that War of Will, who you would think, that colt should show up in here, doesn't because of the velocity. Now, I've got to admit to you, I've been wrong about that colt. I didn't give it a shot in the Derby where it had all that trouble, and I really didn't care for it in the Preakness, which it had a very nice victory. Okay, so again, I'm being cautious. So Spinoff and Joey Villa should be going for the lead. The other horses will try to catch it, and as a result, ValueCapper says, and Acupressure says, this is a normal distribution. This is your normal horse race, where a horse or a couple of horses go out, and the other horses try to catch it. So, with the track profile in mind, and with the projection of the race being kind of normal, let's look at the colts one at a time, and see what, with that in mind, what we can discern. So I'm going to blow up these past performances so they're large so you can read them a little better. And I'll do it rather than in post-position order, in the order that ValueCapper has them on the ValueCapper odds. And the first one on the line is Spinoff, who had a terrible time in the Kentucky Derby. He's 50-1. He had just come short in the Louisiana Derby. And yes, in the races before the Derby, the position at the second call is great. However, if you look over here to where the percentage early is, it's kind of mixed. It's a little early. He did have that 50.55, but that was at a 5-furlong race. Those tend to come up late energy because of the way the distance is timed. So, not bad, not perfect. And then we have Tacitus. Now, its first two races where it tried to break its maiden at Belmont and then broke its maiden at Aqueduct were good positionally, but the energy distribution a little early for the Belmont Stakes. Then, as a 3-year-old, it's shown a decidedly late style. And it was a beautiful win in the Wood Memorial, where it beat Tax, but it came off the pace. The pressure developed in the race, made a beautiful move and all. I'm just not sure that it will be close enough to meet the requirements of the track profile. Also, Tacitus and War of Will are going to be the favorites in this race. Now, it is out of Tappet. You'll hear all this, sages and experts. Oh, Tappet won the Kentucky Derby, and the Belmont, and so therefore, and it's Belmont and whatever. Okay, so there's Tacitus. Don't like it at the odds. So okay, I'm kind of biasing myself, if you will. The third horse on the line, actually, the top three horses, colts, are tied. Is another Tappet colt, and this is Intrepid Heart. Now, this is interesting. You look at the second call, it's 4 by 3.5, 3 by 2 on the lead when it broke its maiden. Positionally, it's pretty good. Look over at the energy distribution, not bad. 51 and change, 50 and small change, 51 and change. It's right there. If we look at it in a conventional way, it did what a champion would do, right? So it broke its maiden at first asking. It won a non-winner's one other than. Then it was entered in the Peter Pan, and it stumbled at the start. You can argue whether it was rushed up, it maybe was a little too early because of that, whether it was trouble or not. All I know is in the races where it didn't have trouble, it won. Okay, and those of you who are into pronouns, I'm sorry. It's grammatically correct to call animals it. I don't mean any disrespect. I'll call him he sometimes, okay? And sometimes I'll mix up horses for colts. Bear with me. It's not, if you're focusing on that, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Okay, so this lovely animal has done nothing really wrong except stumbling in his last start, and pretty good fit for what the track and the race will require. Now, again, it's very lightly raced. It's never run in a grade 1. We can apply all those conventional things to it, and that goes into the mix as well. It's also been the favorite every time that the colt has run. Odds on, 3-2, even money, All right, so moving on to Sir Winston. This is an easy one. Sir Winston is a dedicated closer. If you look at the races from February on, where from the Withers up to the last race in the Peter Pan, where it beat Intrepid Heart in the Peter Pan, it's a dedicated closer. Maybe a little too far back at the second call, but that was a stunning final fraction or late fraction in the Peter Pan. So I'm thinking maybe not for win, but maybe in the exotics. Okay, so this is how I'm going about it. Tax. Oh boy, this is a tricky one. Didn't do very well in the Derby. Came second in the Wood to Tacitus, right? Then the races behind it, the Withers, which it won, the Remsen, and so forth. Positionally, it's good, and the energy expenditure is also good. My one knock on it, if I have a knock, is I don't know if this colt is, actually it's gelding, but I don't know if the gelding is fast enough. If it's fast enough to keep up with it. But I mean, from an energy perspective, from a positional perspective, it's good. But when we expect, for example, a horse that doesn't have great energy, great velocity, and we expect it to make a good close, sometimes it'll make a good close from 8th to 4th, So I'm a little up in the air about Tax. When we look at Joivia, this is another dedicated horse, but it's a dedicated early horse. I don't know if it will be able to get the lead from the 6 horse. I just don't. The way Acupressure has it, Spinoff should be able to get on top of Joivia. I'm not sure it's fast enough. Its energy percentage is all over the place, and it's the longest shot in the field, which never scares me. But what has it done? It won its maiden, finished second in a $150,000 handicap at Aqueduct. Finished way up the track at the Wood, won the Long Branch at Monmouth in the slop. Okay, this was the colt I was referring to. Both of its wins was in the slop. Its maiden win and the last time out at the Long Branch. Okay, I mean, maybe to use underneath in exotics. Okay, that's my mindset. Bourbon War is another dedicated closer. I think might be too far back. I fancy this to be part of the exotics in the Preakness. I wound up not using it too much because it got bet down to 6-1. I was expecting much better price in it. It was 4th in the Florida Derby, if you remember back in that rant, where we had maximum security over Boat Express, and that was cold. If you go back and look at that video, I made that days before the Derby. It was that $514 exact. I don't expect that all the time, and that was a much more accessible race than this one. Everfast, another deep closer. Again, I'm not sure that's appropriate for how the Belmont goes. I just don't see a bunch of horses going for the lead to fight for the lead here, which would set it up for a closer. So I'm a little sanguine about the chances of the deep closers. Now, here's to me, the big question mark in the race. And if you notice, all the other colts are around 150 and so forth. And I've got, by my numbers, I've got that Preakness as a very slow race. Maybe I've made it too slow. I don't know. Can War of Will run to what the other horse has been running, around 150 in my master pace numbers? Yeah, sure it has. And I'll show you how I handle this. The software, because it does things by rules, which is what software has to do, stuck this colt with its last race, with the Preakness. And that's why. So, okay, now I know why it's way down on the line. Okay? So, by the way, for those of you who think, oh, value capper, I'll just get it, it's an automatic thing, and look at all the long shot. No, it requires judgment. It's a tool. Okay? I just want to disabuse you of the notion that there's an easy push a button, hey, the winners come out. Plenty of people selling you on that stuff. There are plenty of touts, plenty of automatic software pickers, and it's, well, and they always have an excuse for why the horse lost. The horse lost. It lost. I'll show you how I handle War of Will. War of Will is sticking in my craw. And again, didn't care for it. Certainly not at 6-1 in the Preakness. Who knows what it would have done in the Derby before that trouble. But this has been a thorn in my side. And finally, the other real question mark, because we have no numbers on Master Fencer. You might ask, why don't you have numbers on the Kentucky Derby? It's 1.25 miles. I stop almost arbitrarily, but this is the way I was trained, at 1 3/16 miles. Much after that, an incremental velocity, pace velocity, is just not as effective. But here's what I do know about Master Fencer. It made a beautiful late move in the Derby, but all of its races in Japan showed late rallies. Now, I haven't gone back and watched those, but I can tell from the comments and from how it ran in the Derby, this is going to be a late runner. And again, that's one of the unknowns in the race. Can it come on to win? Sure. Now, what to do about War of Will? Well, here's what I did. I went and I said, okay, I'm going to just go all the way, open it to all its races, and show me what it can do. Pick its 2 best races within that, and I still got him below Spinoff, Intrepid Heart, and Tacitus. In fact, it makes those 2 price horses, Spinoff and Intrepid Heart, look a little better. So I like knowing that I have Tacitus and War of Will kind of in the mix. Okay, I do not think that they are worth a bet. Now, can they finish 1-2 and it'll be a chalky Belmont? Sure, of course. But here's where the decision kind of comes together. My preference, based on the positionality and the energy, is Intrepid Heart. Why? Well, I've got 3 colts tied at 5-1 on my line. This colt has done really nothing wrong. It's good positionally. It's right there on the energy distribution. The velocity that it has is fine for the race. And, it's a reverser to the big closer, Sir Winston. I will certainly have Intrepid Heart hooked up with Sir Winston in exotics, the Peter Pan reversal, if you will. Now, what price? Well, Value Capper has a Value Capper price, which is kind of like training wheels. If you're really lost and stuck, it'll say, based on the position of on the line, based on how many extras it has, based on any anti-value the other horses in the race have. It says 9-1. I'll take 10-1 to bet Intrepid Heart. That's the colt I'm going to look to bet. And you may say, hey, Michael, what about the Spinoff? You got the Spinoff tied with him and it's right on top. Sure. I'm a little bit less sure about Spinoff because really I think this colt's only chance is to wire this field. Now, it's Granddaddy was Danzig, pretty good racehorse, right? So I'm just not sure. Now, if you ask me, Spinoff, I'd probably need 12-1 to bet, 12 to 15-1. What happens if Intrepid Heart gets bet down to 9-2, let's say, which is what my contention line says, 5-1, which I don't think will be enough to bet it for me. And Spinoff goes off at 20-1, closer to the morning line. Well, here's where the value thing comes in. Given that this is a pass race because it's a mile and a half. Given that my preference is on Intrepid Heart, and I'm using the hypothetical. What if Intrepid Heart goes off at 5-1 and Spinoff goes off at 20-1? Would you bet Spinoff? Yes, but not with a full bet. Okay, I allow myself on these big races and big days kind of some recreational bets. That's what it would be. Now, as far as structuring exotics, I'm going to use these top three colts, Spinoff, Intrepid Heart, and Tacitus. I'm going to have extras with Spinoff and Intrepid Heart trying to make a quote-unquote score. I will be using Sir Winston because of those late fractions with Intrepid Heart. The Peter Pan, the fractions from the Peter Pan, the late fractions are really good on those colts. I'll have an 8-7 exacta box, an 8-7 straight. And then I'll play, okay? In other words, I'll probably have 6, 7, 8, 10 trifecta box. I may put War of Will in with the longer priced horses. Now, as some, really let's try for a bomb. I'm nothing really against Tax and Joyvia. I think it's cheap speed, if you will. But who knows? I'll have little saver exactas with Intrepid Heart with the 4 and the 1, and maybe a tiny, like $1 saver to try to get a $400 exacta with Spinoff. So that's where I am, and that's about as far as I can go, right, in analyzing this race before I see the board. I've got my parameters. Spinoff, 12-15-1. The colt I want to bet is, quote-unquote, want to bet. If I get my price, Intrepid Heart, around 10-1. I'd, really like that. And that's my strategy, and that's how it comes about. So I hope for those of you who know nothing about Value Capper, and those of you who maybe are using Value Capper and are just learning or, making the transition from Black Magic 1 to Value Capper, there's much more than just open up the program and look, the 6 horses in blue and it's on top. I'm going to go bet it. No, it's more nuanced, okay? Now, generally, I don't like these red races, the races that where my little very wise piggy says, hey, consider passing this race. Well, it's a big race. I don't want to pass it. I urge you, whatever tool you use, to look for races that seem clear to you, that seem simple, that seem clear, that seem obvious. Those are the races I really like. And on these quote-unquote big days, those often occur in the undercards. For example, and I won't go through a very detailed analysis, but I just want to show you some undercard races. The Metropolitan, always a great race. And the Metropolitan is one of those mile races that will often come up as a pressured race. This year, it projects as an unpressured race or an early race. And AccuPressure is showing promises fulfilled right on top of the line, 12-1 in the morning line, showing that it will try to wire the field. Now, it is a little early for the track, but positionally, it may do well. So, would I take the Value Capper price of 4-1? No way, just because it's running against two very, very good horses, Mitoli and McKinsey, who will be the two favorites in that race. But give me 10-1 on promises fulfilled? Sure. This is a race that took me like 30 seconds. Or one of my favorite races of the year is the Woody Stevens. Always comes up as a highly pressured 7-furlong race. And, I've got a mix. I'm going to have to see the board. But this Strike Silver it's got a nice closing running style. It's got a really good late fraction. It's a mess of a race. But if I'm looking, they give me a nice 15-1 on that, I'll have that in there. I'll use Nitrous, another closer. I'll use Wendell Fong, the early horse, to look for an early, late exotic, and so forth. So I'll mark races like this. I've got a horse in the 6th at Louisiana, the 6 Euroway, which, it's the top horse has just won its maiden at $5,000, stepping into $5,000 claimer. Michael, how can you go from the Belmont Stakes, grade 1, to a $5,000 non-winners 2 lifetime? Well, this is sometimes where the money is. Okay, I'm a racing fan. Yes, I was there at Belmont when Secretariat won his Triple Crown, when Affirmed won his Triple Crown. Yes, I'm a racing fan. I live and breathe this stuff. However, my objective of the game is not to be a fan or not to show how much I can pick horses and all that. I'm looking for value. And this little gelding Euroway doesn't look very good, but the numbers tell me otherwise. I'll need, something in the vicinity of 12, 15 to 1 to bet it, but I'll see what the board has to tell me. There is a race in Parks earlier in the day. It's another one of those races where acupressure tells me this horse, Pure Style, the 6, it's not on top of my line, but I've got flaws on the horses above it. This horse can get clear at 5.5 furlongs at Parks, even though it's not my quote-unquote top horse, and they give me 10 to 1 on it. Sure, I'll take it. So that's how, and there's more to it. I could get into, make this a 3-hour video and go into all the specifics on that. But I hope this was valuable for you to see, to look over my shoulder, and that it's Value Capper, any software or any method or any rating is merely a tool. How you use it, and I would suggest to you that the principles of value capping, to find and bet horses that you like the public shouldn't, and preferably running against flawed favorites. Okay, and waiting for your price. So in the Belmont, the quote-unquote flaw that I have on Tacitus and War of Will, nothing against it, I've just got better ratings, a better line on 2 longer price horses. I didn't go looking for those prices. There they were. I gave War of Will every benefit of the doubt. Can it come up and bite me again? Sure. I mean, it'd be almost ashamed if that trouble that it had in the Kentucky Derby prevented it from winning, which I think he might have won the race. I don't know. I think Maximum Security that I had, one level on top of my line, I just didn't get the price. I think we went at 4 to 1, 9 to 2, something like that in the Derby. And it's always a black eye. I'm sorry, a horse gets taken down in the Derby. First time it's ever happened in the running of the race. I'm not talking about the drug disqualification that happened. But it's always a bit, so it would be a shame, if this colt gets interfered with in the Derby and then wins the Preakness and then comes on and wins the Belmont. You always think, wow, could that have been, but for racing luck, a Triple Crown winner? Don't know. All I know is I've got, quote-unquote, a better odds line in the way I look at a race on both Spinoff and Intrepid Heart. So I've got horses I like that I think the public shouldn't, running against, quote-unquote, flawed favorites. I'll need my prices. 12 to 15 to 1 on Spinoff, 10 to 1 on Intrepid Heart. Intrepid Heart's the one I'm going to look to bet. If I get 10 to 1 on Intrepid Heart and Spinoff at 20 to 1, I'll take a secondary bet on Spinoff and a main bet on Intrepid Heart. And again, Sir Winston's going to be in my exotics. And now, if one of these other closers get in there, Bourbon War, or the Japanese horse called Master Fencer, even Everfast, well, then I'm going to lose my exotic. It's just that simple. It's another horse race, albeit a fantastic one. So that's my look at the Belmont Stakes. So I hope you enjoyed that. I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me, for allowing me to share my insights about this great game, about my approach of value capping. Thanks for joining me to look over my shoulder as I gave you kind of a play-by-play of how I take a race apart. using ValueCapper. Now, whether you use ValueCapper, whether you use anything, whether you make numbers by hands or whatever rating, the principles of finding horses you like that the public shouldn't, preferably running against flawed horses, waiting for your price, and having a felt sense of the races, will stand you in good stead. My sincere thanks, not only for spending this time, but thank you for those of you who have written such nice comments about these rants. I usually take the time to thank each of you individually for that, but let me thank you all, okay? And an especial nod to the members of the Wizards Forum. The support that you show for this work and for each other is just phenomenal, and I cannot say thank you enough. So until next time, wait for your prices, good luck at the races, and let the bet make you. I'll see you soon.